All right, just to introduce myself, my name is Melissa. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm one of the outreach and engagement specialists on the Mobility for All team. I've taken over a lot of the bike programming and youth coordination stuff from Cami Edson, who's on our team. So this is one of her training sessions that it's my first time doing it. So please be patient with me, but also I would love for it to be more of a discussion. So feel free to, hop in and, share any sort of ideas and takeaways that you have. So with that, I am gonna get started. Just a quick summary of the Mobility for All team. We're a part of the Transportation Planning Division, and we also act as the Safe Routes Regional Hub. So we work pretty closely with a lot of different partners and stakeholders in the transportation sector. And we're always looking to support local capacity and think through a lot of the multimodal needs that youth and families need across the country, across the county. So a lot of our work comes down to helping people access daily needs and get to key destinations. And then also, prioritizing co-collaboration and human-centered transportation policies. So we work with a lot of different stakeholders and try to get, that needle pushed a little bit more towards the accessible and inclusive lens of transportation to get people where they need to go. So for the sake of bike trains, which is what this webinar is about, I wanted to open it up with a quick poll. Has anyone heard of bike trains before or participated in one? I'd be curious to see what anyone's personal experience with them has been.
Hi, this is Malia with Dr. Mack in Denver. I hadn't even heard of bike trains, so I'm here. I can't wait to hear more about it and pretty excited to learn.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today. Has anyone else heard of them or maybe seen them around town?
Oh, there's a few comments in the chat.
Okay.
So Charlotte says, I've heard of Busy Bus in Spain. Nisha says, yes, I've heard of them. They're getting really popular with younger students. And Mia says, awesome. I've heard of them and on social media, and one has started in Denver. Okay, yeah, they're getting popular, it seems like.
Fabulous. And thanks for reading the chat. I can't see the chat, so appreciate that. Sweet. So with that, I'm excited to hear that people know what they are, or at least could recognize them when they see them. So for the sake of this presentation, we're going to kind of go through some of the nuances that comes with if you wanted to set up your own bike train, and just have a discussion from there. So just to repeat, what is a bike train? It could also be called a bike bus, cycle train, or anything else really. It's really just a carpool version of getting kids to and from school or a different destination by riding their bikes. And there's typically an adult or adults that will act as chaperones, getting the kids to and from their destination. And it's kind of just this, pool of bikers, young bikers that got to get where they need to go. So kind of like, safety in numbers, get people around town. So with that, there are several benefits to bike trains. A lot of these are pretty obvious, but just to, go through them, a lot of the bike trains that I've heard from say that there's a lot of improved safety habits that come from being able to bike with fellow students, practice road safety at a young age, and then provide that confidence and that independence at an early age, getting kids more comfortable with biking to school, to the library, to wherever they need to go. It's also a huge opportunity for, physical activity, especially first thing in the morning, or, as they're leaving school. It could help children build strong bones and joints, and just decrease the risk of those chronic health concerns that we see in kids that may be less mobile. Also, students who are ready to learn are more often healthy, awake, and alert. So getting up on your bike first thing in the morning can kind of help with better focus and concentration. But also this can also provide a solution to a lot of transportation issues for families, especially if there's reduced bus service or dangerous traffic congestion when you're approaching the school with their pickup and drop-off times. So kind of having a rerouted population of the student body coming in on bikes might make it a little bit easier for those who need to get to school without the challenges of relying on the bus or for people to drop them off. And then also there's a increased family and community engagement component to that, providing a lot of social positive opportunities for students, families, parents, and just boost that sense of community and neighborhood connections, especially if you are all in the same neighborhood and you want to bike together. Now all of your children have friends that they can go hang out with. On top of that, sorry, it's a little cut off, but not bad. There's also the cleaner environment and fewer student health concerns, just having a little bit more fresh air in your system throughout the day, and then reducing the local air pollution is also huge, from taking car rides or bus rides to a little bit more eco-friendly versions of transportation. And then obviously one of the most important ones, in my opinion, is a peace of mind for families whose children walk alone to school, especially young students, also students with special needs, making sure that there's just a couple of other people there that can support that family in making sure that their kids get there safely and in a timely manner. Because I know that can be a huge worry for parents, is making sure whether or not their kids are able to get to school on their own. So doing it in a group relieves a lot of that stress. Also, obviously, there's money savings when you're not driving your car or stuff like that. So trips by bike or by walking are a huge money saver. And then there's also, they're fun. You get to see your friends first thing in the morning, and it kind of sets the day off right. All right. So for setting up and running bike trains, there can be a informal version or a formal version. Most of the time it starts out pretty informal. Parents identify that, their children need support getting to school. Maybe 1 or 2 days a week, they ride to school with their child, and maybe they'll pick up 1 or 2 of their neighbors' children on the way. So you kind of have this small pod of kids and a parent riding together. This can not necessarily be attached to the school district or PTO or PTA, but it's more organically happening. And sometimes those parents can take turns riding to school with that same group of kids. And then there's the more formal version where it's more organized through school, before or after school programs, or just like a neighborhood association where there might be designated train stops or pickup locations along the route to the school. Well, there's a public meeting place where everyone gathers, and then you set off to school from there. Through the formal process, there's typically more of a sign-up process where there's an adult chaperone, volunteer schedule, and all of the kids, the riders, sign up, and so there's more of an itinerary, a route register to make sure that, all of the kids that are planning on taking the train are not left behind. And then with that, there's obviously a greater need for communication around, like, when is the train running, when is it not? And that can be determined through like the parents that, volunteer. But a program that might help is like a remind.com software where parents can subscribe to the route that would be relevant to them, and whether or not the train is going to run that day. The lead person would say like, oh, it's going to be, we're going to be passing through it whatever time, be on the lookout. The train's not running today because it's too cold. So please figure out a different way to get to school. Or and that would give the parents more confidence in whether or not they can like rely on that train every day, or if it's going to be every other day or something like that. But having that communication or as early as possible will allow parents to plan accordingly. So yeah, but that's more of a formalized process, and it can be a lot more work, but definitely can also have a much larger impact. So with that, oops, don't look at that yet. That's a surprise. So important logistics that come with starting up a bike train. Obviously, there's volunteer management. So you'll have, you want to make sure that any sort of parent volunteers for a bike train are confident in road safety, confident in biking, and know the rules of the road so that they can kind of be the leaders of this bike train, and have everything that they need to succeed. A huge component of that is making sure that, one adult is not supervising like 25 children, all different biking abilities. So it is recommended to have more than one adult per route, just to make sure there's eyes on everyone and no one's being left behind. And then that also provides, the more volunteers that are on one route provides the opportunity, if there is a group of students that are a little bit more skilled at biking, like there can be a faster group that can go on to school, and there could be a slower group that takes their time. And it allows for that flexibility for the group to kind of work in two different smaller pods. But then everyone is still supervised and no one is, getting left behind. But then also, if there are, more than one adult per bike train, this can also be huge for like those youth bikers that are on the older side to act as leaders for some of the younger ones. So you do have that sense of like independence and leadership that you can see with students at a younger age, to support, the kids that, they're riding to school with. And this would also it would be awesome to like just create that empowerment for youth at an early age. And then on top of that, recruiting new volunteers is a challenge, and it is something that you do have to dedicate some time to. So engaging with parents that are already like savvy with biking is awesome. But then also working with parents that are not already involved. So you're not having one set of parents that are already volunteering for other, school activities spread too thin, and then, their capacity is spread too thin, and then they're not able to reliably make time for the bike trains. So kind of tapping into a new pool of volunteers can take time, but it's definitely worth it. So I'm just trying to get my train of thought here. No pun intended. And then also, when you're recruiting new volunteers, you should try to alleviate any sort of hesitations when it comes to liability. I know if I was in this position and I was biking with like 10 other children that are not my own, I'd be worried about, you know, what happens if there's something that goes wrong and I'm responsible for those children. There is a huge resource that I'll provide at the end that does go through how to alleviate some of those concerns that parents may have. But for the most part, those risks are pretty low. And if parents were ever worried about that, like you could have like a practice run where like all of the parents will go, just feel out how the route would go. And so that reliability piece is a little bit more, is a little less concerning, because that liability can deter people from volunteering in the first place because they don't want that responsibility. But that is something that is important to alleviate that concern with new volunteers. And also like planning out routes, making sure that both the leaders of the bike trains and also the parents of the children participating in the bike train know where are the pickup points, what is the route that they're going to take. If there's a route issue, what is the second option, where are we going to detour, and stuff like that. Just keeping those things transparent for everyone to know about, but and keeping everyone informed, and also just having a plan will, you know, lead to more success when it comes to setting up and running the bike train itself. And then you can also from there identify, you know, if there's one road that has potholes that you're like, yeah, this is not the best route or doesn't have safe sidewalks or crosswalks, just paying attention to those infrastructure things, and then work like informing the school district, hey, there's not really all that many safe routes from our part of the neighborhood, and then identifying those areas of improvement will then help the bike trains improve for the future, because hopefully those infrastructure issues will be fixed. With that, can anyone else think of any other logistics that would be helpful when you're thinking about the start to finish of a bike train that I didn't mention? It's okay if you don't.
Can monitor the chat in case people prefer to add their comments over there.
I can comment something.
Sure.
My name is Diana, and I'm part of the Mobility for All Ambassadors. But something that I find challenging for like, I can speak from my own experience and like some Latinx families, it will be like sometimes our kids are not that trained in the bikes as we see maybe like, yeah, other families, right? Like they start really young to have the trainings or accessing bikes and things like that. Or the sometimes the kids are know how to ride a bike, but the parents they don't, so they feel that they cannot volunteer, and that's kind of like a gap in their, they don't feel that confident, right? And on accessing to have the bikes, we know some organizations provide free bikes for families that struggle to buy their own, but yeah, but I see kind of some barriers on this for some groups. And also when you were talking about children with disabilities, like my son, because of his disability, he doesn't know how to ride a bike. So that kind of, and it's very expensive to have the training of how to ride a bike for kids with disabilities. So there's many other.
Yeah. Thank you for adding that. I think that those are all like really important pieces. And I am glad that you mentioned the like not being comfortable riding a bike. There have been a lot of bike trains where if there are a lot of new riders or riders that are very uncomfortable or new to the especially riding like on the road or riding a particular route that maybe there are less sidewalks or less like bike paths. So just getting comfortable riding in the street or navigating your way. I think having practice opportunities before you go and do the real route is super helpful. But I agree, like making sure that both the young ones and the parents are both feeling comfortable with the route is huge. And then you could also, provide a lot more opportunities for those families to, bike together on their own time. But I do definitely agree that the education piece around learning how to bike in general is really important. And hopefully, like with a well-established bike train, you'd have a lot of practice opportunity beforehand to get comfortable. And then also, procuring a bike in the beginning, a bike that, fits you and your needs is also huge. So thanks for including that, Adriana.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone else have anything to share? If not, that's totally okay. I wanted to hop to this fun little challenge that I have for anyone who sets up a bike train or has one that they're already running. If anyone sends us your photos, you can get a gift card. I have to confirm what type of gift card it is, but it could just be fun to like share, any sort of like youth transportation related events, and also win a little bit of money. So if anyone wants to, feel free. The QR code should work. I just checked it before the thing. And then I could also follow up with the link. The link is that is at the bottom of the page is the correct link, but I could also put it in the chat at the end. So if you feel so empowered, it could also be like a super small bike train. Like it could be you and like your neighbor. It doesn't have to be like 25 people. So whatever you're able to get happening would be fabulous. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of resources around how to set up bike trains. There's a huge toolkit that I just took a couple of tips and tricks from. So if you were really interested in setting up your own and wanted a little bit more hands-on resources, I'll follow up with an email afterwards with all of these resources. They should be free, and they do address a lot of the nuances that come with, particular parts of the country learning how to ride or getting, especially if there's not a lot of bikeable areas in your community. So, or if there's a huge barrier when it comes to like learning to ride. So there is a lot included here in this toolkit. I will follow up with that afterward, but there's also a QR code if you wanted it now. So that brings me to when would be a great time to try out a bike train. The beginning of May is the first Wednesday in May is National Bike and Roll to School Day, and then Colorado celebrates Bike and Roll to School Day basically for the entire month of May. So having this training a little bit earlier gives you a little bit of time to get some folks involved. There's a ton of planning resources that I can follow up with you on, but it's a great like event to just kind of get people biking and moving or rolling in any capacity. Like if you just get off the bus and walk a little bit long, get off the bus and you one stop before you usually do and walk a little bit, just getting people moving. But then also like if you wanted to take up the challenge to bike, that'd be awesome too. And we have a ton of resources to help support any sort of local initiatives for sure. And then these are just some resources from the Boulder County area. The St. Vrain School District has folks involved. I think a couple of them are on the call. Hi, thank you for being enthusiastic partners. And they're always like, very motivated and energized folks to work with. And, they would love to, help plan routes or give any sort of resources to anyone who wants to set up a bike train of their own. And then if you do set up a bike train and you need a little support, the county has a bunch of resources that we can set you up with. This is just a small sample of, what we are able to set you up with. And with that, there's a couple minutes if anyone wanted to say anything or ask any questions or whatever. I am by no means an expert, but I'm just enthusiastic about getting people out and about in their community. So thanks.
Melissa, could I chime in real quick from BVSD?
Absolutely.
I
Yes.
just wanted to share that we are very unusual in the BVSD, and we like to get our bike to school day and all the biking activities started a little bit earlier. So for our long history of doing bike to school day, we align with Earth Day rather than the National Day in May. So this year, our bike to school day is April 24th. And we just like to have it earlier because most of the country, they get out of school in June. And we're out of school in May, and it just into May seems a little too close to all the frantic activities that happen at the end of the year. So we are set for April 24th.
Awesome. I will send that in the follow-up email, just asterisk that BVSD is a little different, but still enthusiastic. Awesome. Well, if no one else has anything else to say, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate everyone's enthusiasm, and have a great Monday and happy biking.